改めまして、犬尾陽子です。ハピネスカタリストというチームのような、もので活動してまして、ハピネスカタリストっていうのはね、2016年に私が初めてデンマークに行って、で、それまでは日本でいろんな会社員をしていたんですけれども、人材育成の仕事とかしていて、その中で日本で仕事すごく楽しいし、私自身も楽しいし、いろんな企業の支援させていただいている中で、子供がいながら女性も男性も幸せに働く社会ってどんなものかなって、私も子供が生まれた時に思って、で幸せに働いている世界他にあるかなと思って、たまたまその時に国連の幸福度ランキングでデンマークが1位だったのを見て、思いついてですね、デンマークに行ったのがこのハピネスカタリストを、作るきっかけになりました。でその中で今は私はもう会社員という形での働き方を2年前に、3年前かなに辞めて、今は本当にライフキャリアコーチングとか、いろんな人の人生をよりよく自分らしく生きるってことをご支援させていただいていたり、いろんな企業のもう本当に職場を幸せにする、幸せに働く人たちを増やしたいなっていう思いでワークショップとか研修をさせていただいていたり、あとは慶應義塾大学の大学院でですね、幸福学とかの研究をしている中で、より日本の子どもから大人まで全ての人が一人一人自分の幸せについて考えて、自分でですね、社会を作っていけるような人たちを応援するっていう活動をしています。はい。じゃあね、ここからはですね、マスも、お願いしたいなと思います。
My name is Mas, and I've been working as a social educator or Pædagog for 17 years in Copenhagen. So this is Educational Visits Denmark, and inviting Japanese to Denmark and showing them what they wanted to see in Denmark. Depending on what the individual person wanted to see in Denmark, we tailored a program, a study program, with the components that they asked for. It's very difficult to actually book a visit in a school or a kindergarten in Denmark. So that's our special. That's what we can do for everyone. We can actually get you into a school. So no matter what you're interested in, if you're interested in seeing a school, visit some Danes at home and talk to them. If you want to see a forest kindergarten, if you want to see a folkehøjskole, if you want to see efterskole, if you want to visit a local business that is into sustainability or organic products, or you want a lecture on different aspects of Danish society, this is what we can provide.
今日はマスにペタゴーとしてデンマークで、どんな形で子どもに関わったり、もしかしたら大人に関わったり、日本にはペタゴーという仕事がないので、ペタゴーという仕事について、人との関わり方について話していけたらなと思ってます。
We have imagined that these 3 sessions for the next 3 Sundays, we will be discussing mainly what it's like to work, to have the kind of work that I have. How do I work? How do I work with children? And what is the aim of my type of work, social educator or pedagogue? And we have prepared a few themes that we will introduce, but we're very open to questions, and this is basically going to be a dialogue, and everyone can join in. Basically, what I'm doing as a social educator is helping children to acquire social skills. And this is one very important social skill. Mm-hmm. So let me show you a picture that I took in the place that I work in, just to illustrate this discussion that we will have now about communication skills. We decided not to go into detail about what a youth center is and all the like the framework, the opening hours, the prizes, but we'll start hands-on with actual situations and actual tools that we use, and we can discuss from there. Well, basically, we know from our experience that most children have well-developed social abilities, social skills. They can function in this kind of setup without an adult intervening. So most of the time we will just take part in the game or observe. But in this particular situation, I'm going to point out a few things that could go wrong that the children might get in an argument about, and that's what we'll try to discuss now.
で、例えばその時に、一人はね、楽しい、一人は楽しくない、どっちにどんな風に関わっていきますか？
You can sense that the children's body language is aggressive, or they misunderstand each other, or their language gets very rough. That's typically when we try to intervene, and here's what we do. So we will, the first thing that we usually do is we try to start a dialogue with the person who is kind of transgressing someone's limits, or the kind of the perpetrator, the person who is the child who is calling names or being aggressive. We're trying to have eye contact, make them stop what they're doing, stop playing, and face us, have a conversation with us, and then we appeal to them and we say something like, okay, do you realize what you just said or what you just did? And we wait for a response to see if they realize what just happened, what they actually did. In most cases, if it's not extremely severe, if it's just regular, calling names or getting a little bit too exaggerated, we'll handle this situation in the same room. We'll not leave the room. But if a child has been outrageous or has been hitting another child, things like that, we'll usually move them aside and make them calm down, and then have this one-on-one conversation in another room, just in an office, because we shouldn't do that in front of other children. First of all, the first thing that we do as adults when we intervene is de-escalate the actual situation, the conflict. Try to make them calm down and think about what has just happened. If they are aware of what they're doing, then the next question will be, do you think that's okay? Do you think it's fair to ask the victim? So how did that happen? Did you say anything? Because I only heard him say something, but maybe you actually provoked him. So what did you do? What did you say before this? Has this been going on for a while now, like a few minutes? The final stage would be kind of negotiate. How can we move on from here? How can you be in the same room without getting into a fight or calling each other names? One option is maybe you should talk to each other and agree on what kind of game you're playing. Is this highly competitive, or is it more relaxed and just for fun? And if you can't agree on that, maybe you shouldn't play the same game right now. So maybe just one of you should continue with the relaxed game, and the very competitive one, you should kind of do something else instead, because this is not like a sports club.
何かね、アグレッシブな子にはアイコンタクトで別の部屋にって言ったけど、呼ぶときには2人とも一緒に呼んで別の部屋で1人ずつ話すのかな、それとももしくは1人だけ呼んで、次また1人呼んで、で2人の話聞き終わって、またじゃあ3人で話し合うって、どんな感じで進めてますか？
If it's a very severe situation, then we will talk to each child individually, and maybe the same day in a third session, we will negotiate between them, or mediate between them, and try to make them communicate. And maybe if they're too upset, we can't do it the same day, then we'll do it the next day, or we will maybe call in for a special meeting just on this. That's only in the very severe cases. But usually one-on-one, because the whole point is to de-escalate and calm them down. And what we actually do depends on how serious the situation was. what we will also do, and I didn't mention that before, is we will also tell children, look, there's something that we do not accept.
だからそのとってもシビアなケースの時、子供は子供の中ですごく主張があると思うんですね。その時にこう大人がね、ペタゴーが怒ったりとか、すごくこう指導みたいな形で関わることはありますか？
We shouldn't do that as far as possible. That would be very unprofessional. If we escalated the situation, we should always de-escalate the situation, calm down. If there's a violent situation and we have to, for instance, grab the child's hand and hold it, or hold him like this, or push him away, or stand between them to avoid them getting in physical contact, we have to file a report afterwards, actually, because that's physical intervention. So we're trying to avoid that. Our main tool as pedagogues, as social educators, is verbal communication and body language. We can use our person to try to communicate with children, but we very rarely use physical force.
みんなの前で、日本では他の子への指導という意味で、みんなの前で指導するということがあります。そうした考えはデンマークではありませんかという質問です。
So we try to do the opposite. We try to not correct children in front of the others if it's something severe. And the idea behind that is if we try to lecture a child, tell them what to do or not to do, and they're in front of their classmates or their friends, they are not very likely to accept to be told by an adult what to do, because it's embarrassing. So they will actually play up to us. They will try to provoke us, or not lose their face, lose their dignity. But if we instead move our conversation to a one-on-one setting in another room without anyone overhearing it, we can have a more calm conversation where we can actually discuss, and no one has to feel that they are being, corrected by the adults. If I were that child, and I had that treatment from an adult, I wouldn't feel like this is a person that I like. I would back off. I would be in opposition to that person. So that would give me a feeling of being ridiculed in front of my friends, and that now we're kind of enemies. I and the teacher, we're not on the same level. We are opponents. We're enemies. And the typical thing is Denmark is more or less the opposite, that we're trying to have a very equal, kind of not a hierarchical relation between the professionals, the adults, and the children. We're trying to talk to them on a respectful level so that we can communicate about feelings and about behavior, and try to make them understand what is a good thing to do. We're not trying to lecture on them so much. In Danish schools and after school institutions, and in Danish society in general, there's a very high focus on children's well-being. Children have a lot of freedom to do whatever they want to a great extent.
一つね、質問が来てて、さっき叱るっていうところにフォーカスが当たってたんだけれども、逆にいい行いをしたときに、みんなの前で例えば褒めるとか表彰するとか、そういうことについては、どんな感じかなっていう質問が来てます。
Never, except from maybe a sports event where there's a winning team, they get a medal. Otherwise, never a placard on the wall that says child of the month or best friend, something like that. We never do that. I think the main reason is actually because of this individuality. We don't try to shape the children in one image, like this is a good thing to do. Look, children, you should all do like this. Or look, children, you should all not do like this, and try to lecture on them. There's a broad range, there's a very big spectrum of ways to behave, as long as you're not being extremely disrespectful to other people, or you're not being violent. That's where we kind of modify children's behavior. But other than that, we try to let everyone be the kind of person that they are, because we accept and we understand that every single person in society has different limits to what they think is okay and not okay. But there are some general rules that we can all try to follow, but it's very broad.
改めてね、質問で、今まさにこの教育目的っていうキーワードが出たんだけど、そのペタゴーと先生の教育目的は、なんかもちろんね、同じところにあると思うんだけど、デンマーク全体なのかなの、その子どもの教育目的ってどんなふうに考えてますか？
I think there's a big difference between the Japanese approach and the Danish approach. There's a great focus on individuality, the right of the individual person to be the kind of person they want to be. They shouldn't all follow the same or be the same kind of person, behave the exact same way, as long, like I said before, as long as they don't behave extremely disrespectful to other people or violent. But we have to accept that there are differences in opinion, differences in ways of life, and it's different how you dress, how you behave, how you talk, and what your personal limits are is also different. There's not only one standard in society.
はい、わかりました。ありがとうございます。ね、10時になったんで、Facebook コメントもね、ご参加いただいた皆さんありがとうございました。じゃあまたですね、来週、再来週とね、3回に向けてやっていくと思いますので、